The good news
Should I
is
do this
if we're
episode
not
put
live,
outside?
go for it.
No, probably not.
Um, Hello everyone. Welcome to Five Out, episode 28. We're going to be recapping March Madness, the first weekend today. I'm being joined by Brendan Evers and Ethan Stout. How are we doing, fellas?
This
It's
episode
late.
is titled "Ethan Stout Hates the UCLA Bruins."
Okay. Um,
Hey, that's
but yeah,
that's what you're saying. Graham, by the way, I do have news for you in the fact that we are in fact live right now.
that's
So,
what I figured. Yeah, so yeah, we'll
having
do it
checked-
live.
so you know what? For all the people out there who are probably going to just be watching the recording of this, we were doing this live. March Madness is upon us, and had a few really interesting and really fun days of basketball so far, and that's why we're jumping on here just after 10:30 p.m. Central on a Sunday.
Yeah, so our plan was to pre-record this video, and we were gonna post it Monday morning. You know, from my perspective, why not just do it live and people can watch it tomorrow morning. We can pretend as if we're gonna post it tomorrow morning. Like it's a live show now. We don't even have to worry about doing the work that goes into posting it. It's just out there, and I can go in and I can change the title of the video and stuff in the morning. But yeah, well, we're gonna act as if we're pre-recording the show, even though it's going out live to YouTube now. Before we get into any of the March Madness stuff, I do want to give a shout out to our guy Lance Thomas, who underwent a procedure on Friday. There were some complications with it, and we were in a really dangerous spot with Lance, but he's pushed through. He has survived, and we're really happy that he is on the mend and doing well. So some things are way bigger than sports and Five Out podcast. And so we're happy for our guy Lance, and hopefully he can join us down the road whenever it's time. But just wanted to give a shout out to him and let him know that our thoughts and prayers are with him, and the Five Out community is praying for his well-being. So shout out to him.
We love Lance Thomas.
That was never in doubt.
Never.
Yeah, we knew that.
Yeah,
he knows that.
Big part of the show, Lance Thomas. So
Yeah.
You know
looking
what?
forward to having him
what?
back.
You know what? This is for Lance.
Oh no, I'm scared.
I'm throwing it on for the episode. USA Olympic hockey jersey, baby.
Love it. All right, so with that, let's get into the March Madness stuff because, like we said, it's late and we want to be done with this as soon as possible. So the way that I think we're going to break this down, we're just going to go kind of quadrant by quadrant of the bracket. We're going to start in the East region, and we're going to review the top half and then the bottom half, and then work our way down to the South region, do the same. We're just going to work our way through the bracket, pointing out some highlights from each region, and then maybe give some Final Four picks as they come along. So the first game that I really want to talk about, the first team that has made the Sweet 16 that we're going to highlight is the number one overall seed, the Duke Blue Devils, who on Thursday survived a legit scare from the Siena Saints, who led for a lot of the game. Malik Brown at halftime was interviewed by Tracy Wolfson and was like, we thought this game was going to be a cakewalk, and it was far from that. And Siena head coach Jerry McNamara, rolling with a 5-man rotation, has officially been hired to be the Syracuse head coach as of this evening.
Yep, that was quick.
Taking over for Red Autry. But yeah, your guys' thoughts on the Duke? We had our first 16 seed scare for a couple years, and with a team that we didn't think it would happen to.
So I know we posted this on the Twitter. We had a lot of talk about it. If you're watching this, drop down. If that would have happened, I know it didn't. What would have been crazier? UMBC, Virginia, Fairleigh Dickinson, Purdue, or Siena Duke? I know where Graham's thinking. We can't really talk about it. It didn't happen, but
Ethan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know Virginia, UMBC. Virginia was the number one overall seed in that case.
Correct,
I can't remember if Purdue was the number one overall seed.
Purdue was, I believe, the number 3 overall seed that year.
Okay.
Maybe 4.
I would say the if that had happened, in my opinion, it still wouldn't have been as big of a deal as Virginia UMBC because it wasn't the first time it's happened.
Yeah.
However, I think when I think back to that UMBC Virginia, it's not that they won, but it's the fact that UMBC won by 20.
Yeah, they dominated.
So
It was never a game. Yeah.
so it was not really in question whether they were going to win the game. If Siena was going to beat Duke, the way that game was playing out, they would have won by 2 points at the end of
Yeah.
on a buzzer beater or a missed shot, something like that. They weren't dominating, but they played exceptionally well. And you see that sometimes in these early tournament games, higher seeds, they'll come out really slow against a team that is inferior to them because they might be just kind of looking ahead.
Yeah, and like I know it's cliche to say, but like truthfully, your 16s, your 15s, your 14s, even down to like your 12s, you truthfully have nothing to lose. If you lose by 60, no one cares. Like that was supposed to like they literally play with there's nothing to lose. Like, and I think that's why we see some of those like we were gonna get to like the UConn scare and just like the 15s, the 16s, the 14s, like them playing close is because they truthfully like have nothing to lose. Like if they lose, okay. That's my two say.
Duke dealing with injuries to Caleb Foster on the perimeter was big time, and then Pat Ngongba did not play the first game. He did play yesterday when they beat TCU by 23
Yeah,
points.
he was in
And so
some
that,
foul trouble.
yeah, that was a big time addition that has elevated Duke, and maybe they just like legitimately they just locked in against TCU, especially in the second half, and they're like, we're supposedly the best team in the country. Let's go out there and play like it. But they've made it to the Sweet 16. They're going to be playing the St. John's Red Storm in DC on Friday. So St. John's, after a thorough whooping of the Valley champs, Northern Iowa, survived a late push from Kansas today with a buzzer beater. And I want to just quickly like break down. I want you guys to give your perspectives on the Bill Self coaching strategy the last 15 seconds. They had 2 team fouls.
Yep. And they just fouled.
They had 4 to give. 4 to give with 13 seconds left. And they give the first 2 within 2 seconds, which I don't think was the plan. Horrific execution. Then they use the next 2 appropriately. They chip the clock all the way down to 4 seconds, and St. John's has the ball at half court. And then, like I've seen, Donovan Dent did to Illinois earlier this year, Dylan Darling was pretty much unabated to the rim with 4 seconds and just gets an open layup. Flory Badunga had late help where he just whiffed on the block. But St. John's buzzer beater. Go ahead.
I think, obviously, I think it was very poorly ran them with all the fouls. But I think the worst part, not like getting blown by with 4 seconds left is bad. But there was a dude in the opposite corner with 1 second left, still like hugged on to his guy.
No help. Yeah.
Like, what are you doing with? Like, they're not gonna kick it all the way across the court and get a shot up in 1 second. Like, you got to be on the help line there. Like, you'd rather get beat by a 3 than a 2, in my opinion.
The other thing too, as someone who's followed Kansas basketball fairly closely this season, Marco Jackson is a fine defender, but Cole Rosario is playing good minutes down the stretch. They pull him for Marco Jackson, who comes into the bench cold, and then he's guarding the ball 3/4 of the court with 4 seconds left. That's a little questionable as well. But yeah, the fact that there was just like a shocking lack of help side defense. I felt like the idea was right. Bill Self, I think, if they could have executed it a little more efficiently, would have worked very well. Because the fact that you only have 2 fouls in 19 3/4 minutes.
I am very excited
incredible.
for the Rick Pitino, John Shire game plan.
Yeah, you can pretty much pencil in the Duke St. John's game for the primetime spot on CBS on Friday night. There's
You
not
think,
really a doubt in
dude?
my mind.
I actually
think
know.
not
I
a doubt.
actually have been told those times have been released.
Oh,
Okay.
cool.
So
Is it the early game?
Duke's
They play
St.
that game
John's is 7:10 p.m. Eastern.
Oh yeah,
on
6:10, you're
CBS
right.
on Friday the 27th.
Yeah. Okay.
Illinois Houston's a night
So,
game.
yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, they're all night games in
And
the Sweet
then
16.
Oh yeah, they
yeah,
are.
Illinois Houston is at 10:05 Eastern on Thursday.
Okay. So that's like the super late Thursday game. Okay. Yeah, we'll get into that as we move down the bracket. But yeah, the other thing too, Darren Peterson, played 35 minutes today, shot 5 of 15 from the field.
Yep.
How do we feel about the Darren Peterson experiment now that the season's over in Lawrence? Any closing thoughts on that whole saga?
I'm glad it's over.
I don't know enough to make a valid argument here, so I'll just defer to your judgment, Graham.
I think
It was
the
a shit
past
show.
3 years, the past 3 seasons of Jayhawk basketball have aged Bill Self by about 25 years.
He in his presser today,
has-
he said something about his career. I don't know what it was, but I need to go back and watch after this. It was something, but I feel bad for the guy, bro. Like, whew.
I mean, the 200 Dickinson seasons followed up by the whole Darren Peterson saga this season has not been fun to watch as a Kansas fan, right? Even though I still maintain Darren Peterson is the best player in college basketball this season, I still think he can go to the league and become Kobe Bryant. Like legitimately, I think he's that talented. But the off the court issues and just the issue really being he's not on the court was problematic throughout the course of the season. And I felt like the team, they kind of developed their own style of play without him. And then when he came in, he was just like, he was a ball stopper. He took a lot of shots. So yeah, the fact that this Kansas team didn't make a second weekend, kind of a failure. But when you look at the overall body of work from this team, it's about what I expected. Duke St. John's. If you guys have to make a pick right now, who's playing on Sunday in the
Duke.
Elite Eight?
Yeah,
Duke.
it's Duke.
Brendan? Yeah.
I
Duke
don't
was my
think-
champion.
I think Duke really they started off slow against TCU as well, but then they kind of pulled it
Yeah.
together. I think they've had they've really had their wake up call for like they started out slow against Siena and then they didn't play well against TCU for that first half, but they really pulled away, and I think Duke that was more to form, so I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that they're gonna be advancing to the Elite Eight.
Yeah, I had Duke as my champion prior to the bracket release. I don't want to say I'm having second thoughts, but I'm okay with where Duke is at as far as my pick being correct. St. John's is playing some incredible ball right now though, and they've won 20 of their last 21. Is that right?
Yeah, 20 last.
They're
20.
red hot, and they have arguably the best coach in college basketball. So not going to discount that team. Let's move on to the bottom side of this bracket. Oh, go ahead if you have a
No,
closing
I
thought.
don't. No.
Okay, let's move on to the bottom side of the bracket. We'll start here with the UConn Philadelphia games. First round, UConn beats Furman by 11 points. It was a neck and neck fight for 36 minutes. Terrace Reed goes for like 30 and 25.
30 and 20.
One of the
30 and 27, I think. Yeah.
One of the more dominant collegiate basketball performances of our lifetime, and they needed every bit of it to survive against Furman, who has played spoiler in the past. Like Furman, fun underdog out of the Southern Conference every year gives us a team that like can go out and beat a high major
Yeah,
team.
whoever wins the SoCon, like they generally are putting up a fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, it's hard to not think back to the Brian Anderson and I think Stan Van Gundy call. Or no, it was the not Brian Anderson. It was
Harlan.
was it
Harlan
Har-
and
It was
Yeah,
Kevin
Kevin
Harlan.
Yeah.
Because the guy lost
Yeah,
so
and-
much
and the
money on
Van
that, he
Gundy-
was sitting there like,
Did I just see what I think I just saw?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The
You
key
can tell
card
he-
pass. So UConn just recently defeated UCLA in a game that was close for a bit. Then UConn opened it up. UCLA fights back. UConn opens it up again. UCLA in the first round played a game against UCF. It was a 4-point game where the last 2 minutes actually lasted, I believe, 34 minutes of real time. Like an unbelievably slow-paced game down the stretch. But UConn defeats UCLA, and they have punched their ticket to DC as well. Any thoughts on that region otherwise for you
I
guys?
think Michigan State wins that game by 8 to 10 points.
Yeah, Michigan State's been a machine the first weekend, right? They played in Buffalo. Go ahead, Brendan.
I was going to say, too, Dan Hurley had also been saying, too, they didn't shoot particularly well in either of these games, that they kind of expected the 3-point shooting to regress to the mean at some point for UConn. But Michigan State played 2 really good games. And from what it looks like, Michigan State is just the more complete team at the moment. So if I had to pick right now, just solely based on how they've been playing, I would say Michigan State moves on to the Elite Eight.
I completely agree. There was a point where I was thinking like UConn was going to be my pick to win the title, and then obviously they get blown out in the Big East title game. Haven't looked great thus far in the tournament. So I'm kind of on board with you guys. I think Michigan State is playing much better ball, despite the fact that I feel like their ceiling is much lower than UConn's. But like we said, Solo Ball hasn't been shooting the ball quite as well as we thought he maybe would this season.
Caravan played well.
But yeah, he did. So there's a silver lining. But yeah, think about, look at this region, right? You have Duke and John Shire, who's an emerging, top of the line coach. You've got Dan Hurley, multiple-time national champion. You've got Tom Izzo, the longest tenured coach in the Big Ten, national champion, and Rick Pitino, who's won a championship with 2, 3 schools. He's been to a Final Four with at least 3. One of the greats of all time. So coming out of this region,
the round of 64 is looking at those teams and looking at the schools. Like if you told me 5 years ago that all the teams were on the same side of the bracket, like that whole region was just loaded, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the casual college basketball fan assumes that this region is just a complete gauntlet because they see the names, they see the logos, they see the coaches, and they think this is the toughest region ever. In reality, it is a tough region, but
I think it's
go ahead.
The third easy. I think there's 2 regions better and 1 region worse. I forgot which one is worse, but I looked at it.
The fact that we're getting 1, 2, 3, and 5 makes you think like those two. And we're going to see a lot of that with this bracket.
I think coming into the tournament, though, it was the East and the South were considered the 2 toughest regions, just given the names and how the teams are playing. Because Duke played really well down the stretch in ACC play. They got the big win over Michigan, and that's kind of what propelled them into that number 1 overall seed area. And then you go down to the South, and you've got Florida and Houston in the same region, and Houston was playing well as well. So,
all right, closing thoughts. Who's making the Final Four? Who's coming out of next weekend out of the East region? I'll start with you, Brendan.
This could be a little bit of just the Big Ten homerism in me, but I got Michigan State. Given how Duke has looked, in their first 2 rounds, I can see a world where Michigan State strings together 2 wins and makes it to the Final Four.
Yeah, I think based on what I've seen this week, I think that's absolutely a possibility. I still think I'm going to stick with Duke, even though they haven't looked super convincing. I just think the talent is going to win out for them. And again, I'm just not going to go back on my pre-tournament prediction of Duke coming out of the East. Ethan, who's winning the East region?
I'm with Graham here. I picked him. I'm staying with him.
Okay, let's slide down to the South now. And there are some fun matchups to talk about with the top half of this bracket. I want to start with the Oklahoma City quadrant. Brendan was there this weekend for the Cornhusker takeover. Nebraska just dominant against Troy, which was kind of a trendy upset pick as the week went along. Then they play an instant classic against Vanderbilt yesterday, where a Tyler Tanner half quarter lips out that would have won the game. Just an incredible game all the way through. Like a score in the low 70s, you don't think the shot making was that crazy, but like if you watch the game, some of the best play of the tournament thus far, and it's a shame that Vandy has to lose in this round when there are some other teams that have made it to the Sweet 16 that didn't look as good as them. But Nebraska has looked like they belong, which I think a lot of people had question marks about. I didn't have a ton, but they've proved it to the world. They're on the national stage, and they have shown that they're legit.
See,
Yeah.
Coming into this matchup, you got it. Brendan, yeah, you were there. You take it.
Well, I was gonna. I think getting that win against Troy kind of allowed Nebraska to play more free because it looked like yesterday they were back to that. They looked more like the team that started the season 20-0, flying around on defense. They started off hot, which they haven't done really in any of their games recently, and then they just kind of pulled away against Troy. And Vanderbilt looked great after not starting well at all against McNeese State. So that really the Oklahoma City region, having seen all of those all the teams play, we'll talk about Houston in just a second. But Houston looked dominant in their second round game against Texas A&M. But I was there. I'm a Nebraska fan, and I'll be honest, it was one of the most impressive and most entertaining things I've ever witnessed live. Everyone there was absolutely locked in, and it was pure elation when they won the game because at this point, Nebraska's in uncharted territory for the program, so they're playing with house money. Every win is a blessing, and so there was cheering going out of the concourse, like in the concourses, high-fiving, random people hugging after the game. And that might sound like it's overdoing it and like you're a power program, but like this team had 87 years of NCAA tournament existence and had never won a tournament game. So I don't buy into, you should act like you belong. Like Nebraska belongs. They've played well. And now when you go into the Sweet 16 matchup with a very familiar foe, which I don't think many were expecting yesterday, it should be quite intriguing. I also want to say this, too, just to, again, pat the Nebraska fans on the back a little bit more. They broke that arena's noise record.
Yeah,
it was set during the finals last year, and it was 3 decibels louder than that at some point in the second half yesterday. So shout out my fellow Husker fans. It was one of the most fun things I've ever been part of.
And to do it at a neutral site, right? Like the fact that not every fan in the building was a Nebraska fan. A lot of them were because you guys traveled so well. But it's not like Oklahoma City and Lincoln is like it's not like a day trip. You're not like driving up and back. Like that's a long enough drive to where like it's impressive how many Nebraska fans there were.
Yeah, if you ask a Vanderbilt fan, they would have acted like this game was in Omaha. But the truth was, like Oklahoma City from Lincoln is 6.5 hours of one-way driving. It's an entire state away. So it's a neutral site game. But I will say there was technically 4 teams playing in each session, right? And I bet Nebraska accounted for 99% of the fans in the building. For both of those sessions. There was a moment yesterday, and I thought it was Nebraska fans were so amped and so pumped for the beginning of that game. At the under 4 of the first game between Texas A&M and Houston, the Nebraska band started walking out of the tunnel to like set up. They legitimately got a standing ovation, and like the crowd started roaring because they just wanted something to cheer for, something to like. The cathartic moment of just being ready. And again, never been part of something like that. It was an absolute takeover. There was bars running out of beer. I heard that one bar went through 30 cases of Coors Light in one evening, and their distributors were like waiting around downtown Oklahoma City, ready to be on call for restocks. So
That's crazy.
what a fan base. They've really bought into Nebraska ball. Can we talk the other Sweet 16 matchup though,
Well,
or the
the other side, their opponents.
yeah
They're
yeah
playing the. Is Iowa the biggest rival of Nebraska in basketball? Would you say?
yeah I would
Does it?
say in
Is there?
most
Yeah.
things the biggest rival is Iowa. In
Yeah.
most
As
sports,
far as
right? Aside
since
from
the
like
Big Ten
women's
move.
volleyball, right? That's Wisconsin,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. Just because, level of the programs. Yeah, if you would have told me 6 hours ago, that may not be an appropriate amount of time. Yeah, 6 hours ago. If you told me Iowa beat Florida, I would have called you crazy. Legitimately thought they had no chance going into that game. Florida beat Prairie View by 100 points. Like, they looked about as locked in as could be. And Iowa played an ugly game against Clemson, but Florida just didn't look like they were in the game. Like, they didn't feel like they were invested. They thought they could walk through this game as well, and Iowa said, no, you can't do that. And it was feisty. Like, that was an
Yeah,
aggressive
yeah.
game for
Um,
a lot of it.
the coach he was getting fired up.
Yeah.
I'm scared. Bennett Sturts has not played good the last two games, and they're beating these teams. If
Yeah.
he starts playing good, like, sorry, Brendan, but like,
Yeah.
is that a team that can make like a Final Four run as a 9 seed? Because
I'm not sure about that. I will say
4 for 18. He went 4 for 18 the first game. I think he went like, I don't know, 5 for 16 today or something. Like, he has not been playing well. I don't know.
yeah, but the last game of the Big Ten season, Iowa was in Nebraska or in Lincoln, and Nebraska held him well under his season scoring as well. And I think that's kind of just what the recipe that teams use are basically deny Bennett Sturts the ability to score, and if he is going to score, it has to be a very impressive shot. They're not giving him any open looks, and you kind of saw it today with the game though. He stepped into that facilitator role.
Yeah.
The go-ahead 3-point shot was all because of the
That
attention Bennett
Inbound
Sturts
play
drew.
was drawn to perfection.
I also
Yeah,
have
we need to give
questions.
Ben McCollum some props. Yeah.
Yeah,
go
it's
ahead.
Ben McCollum's
Graham,
the
why
Drake legend.
why on earth would Florida be pressing as hard as they were? They ended up with 3 people chasing the ball, which leads to the
And they're-
wide open 3.
And they're up 2, yeah. Like, I mean,
I texted
get
one of my
that-
friends.
Go ahead.
I texted one of my friends and said, so practically Drake just made it to the Sweet 16. 'Cause, I mean, it really is Drake's team. Like,
A lot of great guys on this team.
Drake just made the Sweet
yeah.
16.
Up to, I will say, there's been a lot of lackluster defense in late game situations in this tournament, and we'll get into some of that again as we move to the other side of the bracket. But shout out Ben McCollum for drawing that up. Todd Golden allegedly, potentially, could be a name to monitor if Hubert Davis parts ways with North Carolina. That's just what I've heard. There could be some movement there. And I texted you guys before the show, and I said I had a nugget that I wanted to share that was not mind-blowing, but interesting nonetheless. Of the last 20 defending national champions, only 5 have made the second weekend the following year after they win the title. And those
Interesting.
5 are the Florida team that repeated in 2007 after winning in 06. 2011 Duke with Kyrie made the Sweet 16 and lost after they won in 2010. 2014 Louisville made the Sweet 16 after they after they beat Michigan in 2013. The 2016 Duke team, the Brandon Ingram Duke team, made the Sweet 16 and lost after the 2015 team won. And then obviously 2024 UConn won the title after they won it in 23. They went back to back. 5 teams in 20 years have made it to the Sweet 16 out of
So it's a
defending
blessing, but it's a
champions.
curse.
And I feel like in years past, you can maybe say, well, yeah, these national champions, you know, a lot of them are senior-led teams, or if they're freshman-led teams, those guys are going to the league. Now, with the transfer portal, you can just revamp your whole squad, and so, I think there might be something to that. But
The
just, I
trend
just think
might
it's interesting.
change, though. We just need more time.
I just think it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, 20 years is not a small sample. You know, like the fact that, and you're
Yes, but
pulling
in the
teams
era
from,
of transfer portal, it is. We're
That
not
is a small
we're not
sample.
deep enough into
True.
the transfer portal era to really know if that will still have an effect. But I totally agree with you. That's one of those things that wouldn't make a ton of sense whenever you hear it. But I think it also speaks to the parity of the tournament every year, and it's really hard to string together a bunch of you have to string together, what is it, 5 wins in order to win the NCAA tournament?
6. Yeah, you have to win six
Six.
in 3 weeks.
Six.
So yeah,
And that means you have to win at least 2 of those 6 to make it there, and
yeah,
that's not really that easy, because really even if you are the number 1 seed, by the second weekend, the level of or the second day of the tournament, you've significantly increased the competition most of the time on who you're
Yeah.
playing. So to me, that does make sense.
yeah. I mean, it's a hard tournament. Is really what I think that stat really says. But it's interesting to think that you're pulling from the cream of the crop. Like national championship level programs only make it to the second weekend a quarter of the time the following year, right? It's interesting and something to monitor next year whenever we have a champion, just to hey, keep that stat in mind. Let's move to the bottom half of the
Alabama
bracket.
is winning by 34 points or 32 points.
Yeah,
what is going on?
we'll get into that whenever we get into the Midwest region, but yeah, they befuddle me as well. Moving to the bottom half of the bracket, starting in Greenville, I want to talk about the Illini for just a little bit. Historic second half offensive performance against Penn, followed by a pretty historic defensive performance against VCU. VCU, by the way, the comeback they made against Carolina, one of the better comebacks of our lifetime in the tournament. Just an incredible game from a shorthanded
But
Carolina
not
team,
the best.
but a
Shout out that
talented
flute
enough
player
team.
in the VCU band too. I don't know. Did you guys see the clip
Yeah.
of that girl?
Graham, you had to.
I didn't. I don't think I have. I
There
don't
was
think I know
a
what
there
you're
was a
talking
flute
about.
player in the VCU band who was getting after it, like instrument up and down kind of thing. But she was going all out, and it was just like one of those
Okay.
coming back from break shots, and people are
Yeah.
like, "This is why VCU won." The passion is there.
I mean, say what you want about VCU. They've now, in the past 15 years, under about 5 different coaches, they have maintained a level of success that mid-major programs don't keep in this day and age.
VCU
They are
is always
always
in the tournament.
floating around the 11 seed, and they win games more often than they don't, I feel like. So
Weren't they like
shout
a-
out Phil Martelli in year 1.
Weren't they like a pretty low seed like a couple years back though? I could have swore 1 year back. Were they like a 4 seed or something?
I feel like they were an 8-9 game maybe a couple years ago. Maybe that might have been 10 years ago now. I don't know. You would have to go like mid to late part of the Shaka Smart era to maybe
Yeah.
they got a 5 seed at one point. I don't know. But yeah, shout out to Illinois.
2014 they
they're
got a
gonna
5 seed.
okay.
2013,
Yeah, I'm assuming that was still
they
when
got a 5
Shaka was
seed.
there. Yeah, I mean they've built a strong program over there, but yeah, not enough to beat the Illini. So
Yeah,
And-
as
they've done
As
it in
somebody
different
that-
ways.
Graham, as somebody that has a degree from Illinois, were you much more excited to play VCU round 2 than North Carolina?
You know, I wasn't too scared of the Carolina team, just because without Caleb Wilson, their guards weren't spectacular, and that's kind of what gives us problems is facing good guards. So like whenever I saw that VCU, like Terrence Hill off the bench scored 34 against UNC, that actually frightened me just as much as playing Carolina would have. But I kind of felt like no matter who we got out of our draw, I was pretty happy and felt confident in our ability to make the Sweet 16, which we did. And so now it's up to next week, and they're going to play Houston, who was dominant, as you mentioned earlier, in OKC, beating Idaho by 30, which is whatever, but then beating my pick to click, the Texas A&M Aggies, by 30 as well. Yeah, Houston is on a what's the word I'm looking for?
They're on a heater right now.
They're dominant. And they're going to get to play a home game in the Sweet 16 and Elite 8.
Yeah,
which might bode well for the Illini.
Yeah, complain about Nebraska fans. Yeah, complain about Nebraska fans calling it a home game, Vandy, but like Houston will actually be playing in Houston next round.
Yeah, they're going to be like 3 miles from their campus at the Toyota Center. So
that is, by the
way,
that
game.
I want to mention too. There's going to like no matter what, there's a Big Ten team in the Elite Eight. Like just by how this like the Big Ten we haven't mentioned, but the Big Ten has been the dominant conference in terms of representation.
6 teams
so far
in the
this
Sweet
tournament.
16. 6 out of 16, like 38% of your Sweet 16 is from the Big Ten. And
they had 9
5
total
of those
teams make the
teams
field.
have done it. Yeah, 9 teams make the field. Wisconsin gets upset. Ohio State loses round 1. UCLA lost just now in round 2. But the other 6 all make their way. And 5 of them were supposed to do it, right? 5 of them were top 4 seeds. And then Iowa taking care of business, beating Florida. The Big Ten, most top-heavy league in America, right? I mean, like the Big 12. Let's see. Texas Tech's about to lose. Kansas lost. So we've got Houston, Iowa State, Arizona. So only 3 Big 12 teams. So the Big Ten making a statement.
Yeah, I will say
let's
3
make some
quite
picks.
dangerous Big 12 teams.
Yeah, let's make some picks in the South region. I'm assuming you're going Nebraska.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
to beat
I'll hold off from making a pick given my proximity to athletics at the University of Nebraska. But I'm happy to. I'm happy to hear your pick.
Yeah, I think Nebraska will win that game too. Like you said, they played recently. They're priors for this game. They won, and they're like you said, they're back to playing December, January Nebraska ball. Right? They kind of stumbled down the stretch at times, but back to the winning ways. Fred Hoiberg, one of the best coaches in America. I think they're going to make an Elite Eight, and ideally they're playing Illinois, and we get the rubber match. Ideally.
Yeah, and again, that would be pretty cinematic and that would be interesting. Appointment television, and both Illinois Nebraska matchups this year have been great TV. They've been great games. Illinois pulled away a little bit late in Lincoln.
Yeah.
For that matchup.
30 minutes of some tough ball.
Yeah. I will say, like, as just a Nebraska fan, I will say, I don't know if I would be more annoyed more upset getting beat by Iowa than I would be Florida. Like, if we lose close to Iowa, I think I'll feel a little bit. I'll definitely feel more personally hurt by losing the season series to Iowa because it's the rubber match. But given how far they've made it, like I'm happy for this team, and the future's looking bright. Fred Hoiberg has this program built up way better than they've ever been built before.
Ethan, your picks for the South region.
Unfortunately, sorry. I think it's the winner of Illinois Houston. I don't know who's going to win that game, though.
Yeah, I think that someone tweeted out, like, I think that the 3-1 seeds can win the title, and the winner of Illinois Houston is the 4th team that can win the title, essentially. Not to discredit any of these other teams that have made it. Like, I think Iowa State's looked really good. I wouldn't be hesitant to put them in that group. and a lot of other teams can make a Final Four. But as far as like winning 4
Is-
games in 2 weeks
Is
against the
Iowa
best of the
State-
best,
Is he going to be back, or is he done for the year?
So people were speculating that he had a chance to play today, and then he came in on a scooter. So that makes me think that it's longer term than we think. But I'd assume we'd get an official diagnosis at some point this week. Let's move on. Let's move on to the West region, and I want to start in the West region with probably the most chaotic part of the bracket thus far, with the High Point Panthers knocking off Wisconsin in round 1. Really the only true like upset type pick in the entire first round, right? Like there were some like 11s over 6s, but those happen fairly frequently. This was our only like low, like needed to get in by winning their conference tournament team that advanced in round 1. And they beat Wisconsin, which you couldn't. There aren't 5 programs that I would wish that upon more than Wisconsin. Like I'm happy it was them, frankly. But that game was awesome. Like what an electric game.
Oh yeah.
Both of them really,
Johnson took
because the
work.
Arkansas game was, 38 minutes of electric
Awesome.
stuff as well. Chase Johnston went from hero to villain really quickly
Very
with his
quickly.
shot chucking antics.
He
Talk about quickest
was
release.
Terrible against Arkansas.
He was not good last night. But yeah, they needed him to beat Wisconsin. Like that half quarter or 40-footer, whatever you want to call it, just like quick release in rhythm, just like firing as soon as he catches. That's the highlight of the tournament.
Oh no!
And yeah, and he-
it's Ole and Butterbeer.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Ole,
you're probably
Ole
right. There's
bacon in the half court shot.
We have gotten people are complaining about margin of victory in these tournament games and how a lot of these games are blowouts. But we've gotten our fair share of like electric moments from the close games. So I'm not
Particularly
gonna
rounds
sit here
2.
and complain.
There's been
Yeah.
some great round 2 games.
Yeah.
We mentioned Nebraska
Oh.
Vandy, but then today St. John's Kansas, like great finish.
But yeah, so High Point is
Florida,
your
Iowa.
Cinderella story. Yeah.
Yeah,
High Point's
Iowa,
your Cinderella
Iowa,
story
Florida
that-
today.
Go ahead. Yeah, High Point is the Cinderella of the tournament, and they made it through one round, which is kind of it. It's a statement on where we're at with March Madness in the NIL era. But I do want to talk about Darius Acuff and Arkansas as well, because
All right, can I give my opinion on Darius Acuff?
yeah, shoot.
He is not the best player in the country, but he means the more and is the most beneficial to his team than anyone in the country. And he's so good. He's amazing. I love him.
He might be the best offensive player in the country this
In the
year,
country.
right? Like, he, for all of his shortcomings on the defensive end, and the size questions, all the stuff that's keeping him from the top of the draft boards, at the collegiate level, that stuff doesn't mean as much, and he is, you're right, so important to what Arkansas does.
Much to
And
that
he's
team.
just kind of, he's the straw that stirs the drink. He does it all, and you're right, he makes them go.
Yeah, Darius Acuff.
they're-
Yeah, to me, like, I totally agree with what Ethan's saying. It's like he's the most beneficial to his team, but I can't think of like he's a freshman, and the fact that he's able to lead his team in scoring, but like he's the type of player that if you need somebody to take over in the late game and make a shot, you give the ball to Darius Acuff and he can facilitate.
Oh, he's not. He'll just go get one. He'll get one himself. He don't need to facilitate. I don't know. I don't know who I'd rather like in the last 10 seconds of the national championship right now. I think I want the ball in his hands.
he is one. He's one of the guys that, like, yes, he's going to be probably a top 10 pick. He has likely played his way into that this season. Although, whenever combine stuff happens, guys tend to rise and fall more often. Um, I think there's a world in which he is better suited just saying, like, I'm going to stay at Arkansas and play under Cal for 4 years because he has already given them the keys. He could be the best point guard in the history of college basketball. Like, I think that that's on the table for Darius Acuff if he wanted to pursue that route, and I think that that could be more fortuitous for him with his style of play than going to the league next year. And, like, with NIL, you can make some money doing that still. I think that's something interesting to monitor. I'm going to give it a 4% chance of happening, but I would love to keep Darius Acuff in college basketball for as long as possible because I think this is where he's at. He's going to be at his best.
Darius Acuff too. Like I heard this too. He's the second player coached by John Calipari to win the SEC Player of the Year and Freshman of the Year. The other was Anthony Davis. So, like, you got to give some credit to John Calipari for finding a player like that, making him fit into Arkansas, and then making him better too, because he has the freedom to to be the kind of player that he is. Right? He's not being held back by a system. Right? It's Darius Acuff is the system at times. And that's
Calipari guards. Yeah, go ahead. Wrap it up.
If Arkansas is to make a run deeper into this tournament, it will be solely on the back of Darius Acuff.
The
Dude, that lob
Calipari
that he
guards.
threw, look at that. Oh my god.
For 20 years, Calipari's guards have been, kind of like a lock, right? Even going back to Derrick Rose and Tyreke Evans at Memphis, and then obviously you have this whole lineage of guards from the past 15 years at Kentucky, right? Where like Shai Gilgeous was like a 1-year guy that was kind of unheralded. He is one of the 3 best players in the NBA now, right? Devin Booker. Not Cason Wallace. One of the other guards recently. The Kentucky guards from the past 10 years have been really solid at the NBA level, and obviously, like they're pretty much can't miss. Arkansas is going to play Arizona, who survived a scare today against Utah State, but has kind of looked like they're one of the 2 best teams in the country. And I honestly, like, aside from the Illinois matchup, which I have personal stake in, this might be the matchup I'm the most excited to watch in the Sweet 16. This is Arizona-Arkansas game. I think it's just going to be awesome because contrasting styles with a lot of talent on the court, some of the best guards in the country. I can't wait. You guys have a pick on that one?
Oh, Ethan, we can't hear you. I got Arizona in this one. While we're waiting on Ethan, I don't know what's wrong with his audio, but I've got Arizona.
Yeah.
I think there will be so much attention thrown his way that, again, if they're going to make a run deeper into this tournament, it'll probably have to be on the back of Darius Acuff, and I think Arizona has the weapons to cool him down. You're never going to shut him down, but cool him down a little bit to the point where I don't know if Arkansas will have an answer.
I'm with you too. I just think Arizona has too much talent overall, and yeah, they're huge, and they're just gonna play their brand, and I think it's going to win out in the long run. That's just kind of where I'm at.
They were
with
also
Arizona.
the team I had in my bracket that would win the tournament. So
and it's a good pick because the West region, I think, especially like we'll get into the bottom half here in a second, pillow fight. Like I think. If they can beat Arkansas, I don't see them having any problems with whoever wins out of the bottom half of the bracket. Still don't think.
Yeah,
we have anything.
here's the bottom half of the bracket.
let's move into that.
Shout out Texas.
Ethan's got Arkansas winning and going to the Final Four, as he says in our chat. I don't hate that pick. Like, legitimately, I think Arkansas, it could be them. If it's not Arizona, I think they have the second best chance. Moving on to the bottom half of the bracket, let's talk about the Portland games. So Gonzaga beats the 5-Out Podcast darling Kennesaw State in the first round. Ethan and Austin were all in on the Kennesaw State Owls. They were pushing propaganda on Twitter. The entire feed of the 5-Out Podcast Twitter page is now Kennesaw State branded. But they drop that first round game, and then they lose to Texas.
That's probably why Austin's not with us today.
He could be. He could be so devastated.
He's so sad
of the Kennesaw State game. But Texas wins in Dayton on Tuesday against. No, we still don't have you. They lose to or they beat NC State in Dayton on a buzzer beater, not a buzzer beater, but like a last second shot. Then they fly out west to Portland. They beat a BYU team that was kind of clicking down the stretch. Okay, I could hear myself echoing from Ethan.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Is it okay?
Just there's an echo of us.
Oh.
Oh yeah, definitely mute when you're not talking.
So yeah, they beat BYU, who was clicking, and they beat Gonzaga. 3 games in 5 days, and they're going to
Go
move
Owls!
out to San Jose.
Yeah, I also
but yeah,
I also
so-
want to I heard the stat too that they're only the fifth team that played in the first 4 to advance to the Sweet 16. And having seen that game, the game between Texas and NC State in the first 4 was ugly for a good portion of that game. And I had no faith moving on that they were going to beat BYU in that first round game, but they've looked so much better.
Mark Few sucks.
That's the thing. They are so talented at the guard spot, right? Pope and Tremont Mark and Dalen Swain are 3 of the more talented players in America. They've got the Vocatitis kid that, he's not a shooter, but he dominates around the rim. But yeah, like they did everything they could to lose that game to NC State in the first 4. Like they were trying to hand it away at the end.
Yeah.
And they won that, and they come out of Portland with a win. They're going to come back home and then fly back out to San Jose, where they will match up with Purdue, who won their 2 games in St. Louis. Not without a little bit of stress, but Braden Smith breaks the NCAA all-time assist record against Queens. They survived today against Miami thanks to a big-time performance from Fletcher Lawyer. And they, the number 1 team preseason in the country, makes their way out to the Sweet 16 and has supposedly the easiest matchup of anyone to get to the Elite 8. So, good for Purdue, I guess.
Yeah, I'm gonna say too that I don't see a world, and as much I don't see the reality where Purdue, if it in fact is Arizona that beats Arkansas, I don't see Purdue winning that game.
Yeah, I just don't think they're athletic enough, especially inside. Right? Like, I just think they're going to get dominated by Arizona's bigs. I think the winner of the Arizona-Arkansas game will be my favorite to come out of this region and make a Final Four. I think it's going to be Arizona. But I do think Purdue beats Texas, if you're making me pick now. Even though, like, if this is the Texas team we're going to get next week too, there's no reason to say they won't beat Purdue, right? Like, they could do that just as easily as they beat Gonzaga. So
yeah, I think this is kind of where it ends for Texas as well, because Purdue has good size, they move the ball well, they run great offense, and Oscar Clough is an absolute menace on the offensive glass, and just as a scorer. So unless he's in foul trouble, I really think he can kind of shut things down. And Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer have kind of terrorized the Big Ten with their abilities to create open shots and make plays with the Boilermakers for years now. So, and if you're Purdue, you're kind of celebrating this matchup a bit, because I think the upsides, if you're playing BYU or Gonzaga, those upsides of those two teams versus the upside of this Texas team they are completely different.
Yeah. Yeah, lower ceiling for sure with Texas. I don't think they're not going to step up and come out firing red hot from three. They're not, like, if they're going to beat you, it's going to be because you don't play to your level. It's not going to be because they went crazy and went above Purdue's level. I don't think Texas at their best can play with Purdue. But yeah, so we're both going Arizona out of the West region. And now to wrap it up, we have the Midwest region. I don't really know where. I guess I'll start with the Michigan side of this. They looked dominant, especially on Saturday morning against St. Louis, which I kind of predicted. I knew as soon as SLU put the beating on Georgia that they did, I was like, they're going to run out of gas. There's no way they shoot this well against Michigan. And they didn't. But Michigan, as expected, just kind of took care of business against a couple inferior teams. It's going to take a really talented team to beat them.
Yeah, and with that St. Louis game, St. Louis was it was close until about the 12-minute mark of that second half, and then I think Michigan rattled off an 8-0 run in which they hit 2 3-pointers. And there were some St. Louis turnovers mixed in there. And yeah, I did not see the pummeling that St. Louis put on Georgia coming.
I did not.
I think that's worth giving them credit, because they've been a darling of America in terms of just everyone expected, or everyone kind of had bought into St. Louis basketball this year, because they had one loss going into I think they were like going into March, they only had like one loss on the year. And so, I'm glad they got the 9 seed and got that win to advance. But yeah, Michigan is playing, they lost to the Big Ten tournament, but now they're like they're hungry. And really having, kind of seen a little bit of this Alabama Tech game, I don't see anyone but Michigan coming out of this region. So I'll just lay it out there. Like, I've got Michigan going to the Final Four.
Yeah, Alabama, I had some questions as we move to the other side. I had questions about Alabama. They lose Aiden Holloway. He's arrested and dismissed from the team, Wednesday? But they survived against Hofstra, and then today they just kind of put a beat down on Texas Tech, who I really like Texas Tech in the matchup today, even without JT Toppin. But yeah, we're getting Michigan, Alabama. I do think if you're looking at teams that can beat Michigan, I don't think they'll lose, but I think Alabama is a team that could beat them, just with their style of play, with the type of guys they have. If they have a shooting night like they had tonight, they go up tempo enough, like they can just, if they make shots, they can beat anyone. I believe that Alabama plays a style where they can beat anyone on any given night. It takes a lot, but it's in the realm of possibilities.
Yeah, it could be one of those things too where I don't see, is Alabama going to shoot the ball as well against Michigan's defense? Where they
Probably
run out
not.
of gas a little bit too. But
Yeah,
you never know.
you
also never know how these games are going to go, because the second game of a weekend is so much different than the first game, because it's more like when you're coaching and preparing, these teams will actually have a practice where they'll have a scout team, and they'll have a game plan put in, whereas the second round, pretty much every team just did a walkthrough and watched film.
Yeah.
Before it's 1 day preps, so that's why sometimes you can see teams look a little unprepared for what is the traits of a specific team. So, yeah, if Alabama's prepared, then maybe they'll have a chance. But I don't really see the possibility.
I mean, I do see the possibility. I don't think there's a large possibility. Is kind of how I'd put it. Because Michigan
I would
is
agree.
playing a style of ball right now. They appear to be the best team in the country right now. And then as we move down to the bottom side of the bracket, let's start with the bottom St. Louis part because we had an instant classic with Kentucky Santa Clara on what was that, Friday morning? Game 1 of Friday.
Yeah.
With the late second Santa Clara 3 to go up 3, followed by the OA half court, not quite half quarter, that he banked in to tie to send them to overtime, and then Kentucky survives in OT. My read on Kentucky going into the tournament is they're going to beat the teams that they're better than, and they're going to lose to teams that they are worse than. They're about as high floor, low ceiling as you'll ever find in a 7 seed. And that's exactly what they showed this weekend. I want to say I nailed that selection.
Well, they had no business based on the outcome of that game. They had no business making it to the second round. I don't know. One, I think Santa Clara was trying to call a timeout. Coach reacted a little late, but Santa Clara, you got to foul. Got to foul there. With 3 seconds left.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
yeah,
that's sometimes how that's a learning moment, fouling up 3. But yeah, I would say that take is exactly correct.
And yeah, so Iowa State, they were kind of in a scrum this morning or this afternoon with Kentucky for about 12 minutes, and then they just kind of opened it up and just put a whooping on them. Iowa State also playing some elite basketball right now. I think of the 2 seeds that remain, the Big 12 2 seeds are the 2 that that appear to be the most formidable. Iowa State looks really good. And even without Joshua Jefferson, I think they have what it takes to potentially make a Final Four. It's going to take. I think they need him to beat Michigan, but if he's there, I think they can do it. Yeah. Any thoughts on that before we get to the last 3 games?
No, I'm just. I think if there's one team that could beat Michigan, it's Iowa State.
Yeah, out of this
region. Right. I think Iowa State might match up well, and just remembering back to the absolute beatdown that Iowa State put on Purdue in Mackey Arena earlier this year, their upside is as high as anyone's upside.
And if you look at the first game that Michigan lost this year, when they lost at home to Wisconsin, it took an unbelievable shooting output for Wisconsin to win that game, and they were on the road and they did it by 3 points. But Iowa State is capable of that type of offensive performance, and they play defense very well too. So they're right up there. They're one of the 7 best teams in America. So they're going to play Tennessee, who decimated Miami, Ohio in the first round. Congrats to Miami on making it and winning their first 4 game, but it was pretty clear that once they got in, Tennessee this game was never going to be that close. And then they survive against Virginia today. And so Tennessee makes their 4th straight Sweet 16 under Rick Barnes, and they will match up with Iowa State, where it appears they'll be 4.5-point underdogs. I'm happy with Iowa State in that spot as well. So,
yeah. So who are you picking to come out of the Midwest?
I'm going to go with what I've seen. I am going to go with Michigan. My initial bracket, I had Iowa State. I haven't lost any confidence in Iowa State's ability to do it. I have just, I'm scared of what Michigan is right now. And so Michigan has looked better than I hoped they would. So yeah, if I'm going Final Four, I'm going 3-1 seeds in Illinois. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I think I had Michigan State.
Yeah.
So I think
Michigan
I'm 3-1
State,
seeds
Arizona,
in Michigan State.
Michigan. Well, not in the South region because Florida lost.
Right.
You can take Nebraska. You can take Nebraska.
I'm not saying that it's gonna happen, but I will say
There's a chance.
there's a chance. I mean, they're still playing, so there's a chance, right?
Yeah, you're going to be favored to win your first matchup too. So like, you take care of that, then it's a coin flip, right?
Hope-
if every game's a
yeah.
coin flip,
Hope and pray.
yeah.
It would be really fun
Um,
for that Elite Eight matchup. 2 straight Big Ten rematches would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's the thing too with the South region now is the Big Ten now essentially has 3 chances to beat Houston in Houston. Like, can we
Yes.
stop? Can we as a unit come together and stop Houston? 3 different teams have the option to do it. Hopefully, it only takes one. But yeah, so that'll do it. We went. I'm gonna say a little longer than we thought, but that happens every time we film an episode.
Shocking.
But yeah, thank you guys for, I mean, obviously not tuning in live, but we'll post this out tomorrow and act as if we're going to post it then. But yeah, thanks for
We
listening.
wouldn't be acting as if we're posting it then. It is just live whenever you're listening.
It's out now. Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Thanks for
expect
listening
anyone
to this.
to
Thanks for
come out
listening
and
to this
listen.
whole
Thank
time.
you for-
We did record on.
Thanks for
Yeah,
listening.
we recorded on Sunday the 22nd in the evening. You bared with us, and we appreciate it.
Yep. As I always mention, links are in the description for all our socials. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok's in there. We haven't posted on TikTok, but those 2 are on there. 5outpod.com is the first link you'll find on our website. Austin's still writing tons of articles. A lot of quality stuff is happening with the website, so make sure you
Send
check
him a Twitter
that out.
DM and ask where he was today.
Yeah. I'm almost certain he just fell asleep, which is disappointing, frankly. But yeah, I'm sure he'll be back next week. I don't know if I can promise the same thing. But yeah, I'm happy to be back. Happy to do an episode talk about college basketball. It's the best time of the year. So,
Best
like I said,
sports
thank you guys
tournament
for
of the year.
listening.
Absolutely.
And I can't promise
Peace
it'll
out.
be the same time next week. We're really not
See
sure.
you sometime next week.
But we will see you next time.